Hi, I'm Joel with Dish Advanced Tech Support Team, and I may have even talked to you. Today we're going to talk about a few things that may or may not have happened to you. Does your screen ever look like this? Maybe you came home and sat on the remote, or maybe your kid likes video games. Maybe you're a kid who plugged in your video game and mom's coming home, but the TV still looks like this. Maybe it's blue, maybe it's black, maybe there's something fun bumping across like no signal. Well, we can fix that for you, and I'll show you how. The first thing we're going to do is go ahead and make sure that your receiver's on. It's probably one of the most overlooked steps because you probably didn't turn it off. Well, there's a couple things that could turn it off for you. Power surge, it just may have gone in and turned itself off. So what we'll do is make sure that your receiver's on, and you can look right here at the front panel. See if there's any lights. On mine there's not. Well, there's a couple ways we can turn it on. I'll grab my number 1 remote because I'm in the room with the box. That's our number 1 TV. Go ahead and push that, and hey, now I've got some lights on. Well, unfortunately it doesn't seem like it fixed it for me, so let's check a few other things. But first, if that didn't turn it on for you, right here, there's a little door. And right there, there's a power button. That would also work for you, say if you can't find the remote or you left it on the couch. Also, if it's your TV too, keep in mind you can do that with the number 2 remote. Bring it into the main room, press the SAT button, and the power button. The blue light will also turn on. That's your best indication that it's on. So, if we've made sure our TV's on, and there's still a blank picture, we'll go ahead and take the remote for this room. Top left side, press the SAT button, and then go ahead and hit the guide button. If something came up, we'll go ahead and have to reset this receiver. Now there's 2 ways we can do that. On the top right hand side of your receiver, there's a little door. We'll push in, and it'll open up again for us. Now, if you have a receiver with it, you can press and hold this little red reset button, and it'll reset the receiver for you. Now, if you don't have one of these, don't worry. You can also push the power button that we found earlier, and hold it for about 10 seconds. When you do this, all the front panel lights will go out, and after a while they'll turn themselves back on. Now they might go on and they might come off a couple more times. Don't worry, this is normal. When it's ready, it'll start itself back up, and all the lights will stay on pretty constantly. It can take up to about 5 minutes, so if you need to, go grab something to drink. Now, the main cause of an issue like this is that your TV is probably on the wrong channel. Now, we can go ahead and fix that, so let's find out where we're at. Using our dish remote, again the one for this room, on the top left side, we're going to press the TV button. It's the one just to the right of the satellite button we pressed earlier. After you press that, go ahead and just turn the TV off. Once it's off, turn it back on. Now it may take a second for some of your newer TVs. When it comes back on, in the top right corner, you'll see it comes up and says channel 3. This could be in the left, right in the middle. It's going to be specific with your TV. Now, if you don't have your dish remote, or it doesn't work with your TV, we can also use your TV remote. Or you can use the panel buttons on your TV. For your newer TVs, it could be on the top, right-hand side, the bottom, on the left, and for your really expensive TVs, they're touchscreen, but I'm sure you can find those. Now, you may be asking yourself, why does this matter to me? Well, it's because most of your dish stations come in on either a channel or an input. Now, if you turned your TV off, and when it came back on it had a number, you're going to want to try maybe channel 3, 4, 62, or 75. If it came up with something saying maybe video 1, HDMI 1, AV, something along those lines, it's going to be an input, and we'll cover that in a moment. Now if you're on TV 2, and you turned it back on and it came up with a number, try channel 60, 73, 21, or 116. Now whether you're on TV 1 or 2, you can use this with the dish remote by hitting the TV button again in the top left corner, and just pushing the numbers on the keypad. Or you can use your TV's original remote and just push the numbers. Now, our first cable that we're going to go over, if you have an HD TV, is more than likely going to be our HDMI cable. Now, these come in many colors and many sizes, but they all look roughly the same. You'll notice this one, it actually says HDMI. Yours may, it may not. The connection type looks a little interesting. And you'll notice it also has a matching hole right here that says HDMI right below it. To connect it, fairly simple. Line it up, push it straight in, and there you have it. Moving on to our next type of cable. This is actually known as our RCA cables. And you'll notice there are 3 different colors. Now, they kind of all look separate, but they're all connected to the same cord. Now, with these, your yellow one is going to be your video, while the other two are sound. They'll connect here in these multicolored holes. Now, the first set of holes has a blue number 2 above it. This is for your TV 2. I would avoid plugging it into this. It could cause other problems. We're going to aim for the middle section of holes here. You'll notice the top one is yellow, the middle one is white, and the bottom one is red. They push in kind of firmly. Give them a little tug to make sure they're there, and that's how you plug those in. We'll move on to our next set of cables, YPRPB. Now these have several different colors. You'll notice they're green, blue, and red. Now these cables are a little bit thicker, but can sometimes be confused with RCAs. So just take note of the color when you take a look at them. These are on the far right hand side of that square of circles. And these cables, keep in mind, are for video only. So you'll actually need a second set, which I'll get to in a moment. These are very similar to the RCAs, they just push straight in. Now, with something like this, as I mentioned, being just picture, I'm sure you'd like to hear your TV too. The other cables you'll need, should be familiar now, are the RCAs. Now with these, you're going to leave out the yellow one, because as I mentioned earlier, it's for video only. We'll just use the white and the red. They'll plug in right here next to the green, the blue, and the red for the RCAs. All 5 of these must be connected to the receiver and your TV in order to get picture and sound. And finally, the cable we'll talk about is our coax cable. You'll see it's connected here. It's a simple cable that screws in hand tight and has a little prong sticking out of the middle, and that's how you can recognize it. You'll notice this port says TV channel 3, 4 out. Now with this, it's kind of self-explanatory. You'll be putting your TV on channel 3 or 4, as we mentioned earlier, as long as we're still talking about TV 1. Now, finally, if you look here and notice to the right that there's nothing else plugged in between your HDMI port and all of these connections, and all you have is one cable that screws in, and on the back of your television is a coaxial cable that screws in, that's going to be your reference to go ahead and check channel 62 or 75 on TV 1. If it's TV 2 you're having an issue with, take a look at this cable right here. It'll say home distribution. It's generally fairly close to this very noticeable antenna. Make sure this is connected, because this is the cord that eventually gets picture to your TV 2. This channel can be found on 60 or 73, and again, if you don't find it there, try 21 or 116. Hey, great job. Now that we've figured out what type of cable we're using, let's try to find it on the TV. Now, I'm going to use my TV remote. It's the one that came when I bought my TV. If you don't have it or can't find it, don't worry. We can use your dish remote too, and I'll show you how to do that in a moment. On mine, I'm going to use the input button. It's right here. Yours may be at the top or the bottom. It might be an individual button that says source, TV video, game. It might also have the name of the actual cable you're using, like HDMI, Video 1, AV, something along those lines. And it's fine if you hit one of those too. We're going to go through my inputs and see if we can find that picture now. I'm going to go ahead and give this a press, and if you'll see, it comes up with an input source list. Now on mine, it says input 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, with an option for TV as well. Now this is going to depend on what type of cable we're using. Now if you'll see on mine, if I continue to press the input button, it might be source for yours, it'll actually keep going through these inputs. Now if you'll notice as I cycle through them, they're not actually changing. I'm just changing what selection I'm looking at. I'll go ahead and hit enter. And hey, now we've fixed it. Yours might not happen this fast. You may want to go through the remaining inputs. That's fine. I'm sure we'll get it in a minute. Great, now we have a picture. You may be wondering, what's this big blue message on my screen? Well, what this is, it's a long way of saying your remote's set to control the wrong thing. What I'm going to do to get this off, and what you should do too, in the top left corner, go ahead and press the SAT button. You'll notice when I press it, the message goes away. Fantastic, now you're ready to watch TV. Now, if you haven't gotten this far, or if you don't have your TV remote, I promised you I was going to show you with the dish remote, and don't worry, I will. With this dish remote, we hit the satellite button to get that message to go away. Well, let's act like this isn't actually a picture, In fact, now it's not. So, starting over, we'll use our dish remote. I'm going to go ahead and push the TV button. This is like speed dial for your remote to tell it what to talk to. Now it's talking to just my TV. Once that goes out, I'm going to go ahead and look for the input button. On our remotes, it's typically right below the TV button. I'm going to give that a push. You'll notice the same menu comes up. And if I continue pushing it, it too will cycle through it. It'll go ahead and go to the next one. And now we're back up to having a picture again. Fantastic use of this remote, but don't forget, it's going to be back up to this mode reminder. Anytime we change modes on the remote and you want to use your satellite again, push the satellite button one more time. Now, if you don't have a remote, or yours is maybe a little too hard to read, you can always get to the different input by using the buttons on the front panel of your TV, like we discussed earlier. Now, if everything we've done hasn't fixed your problem, our last-ditch effort to get this up and running is going to be a hard reset. Now, what's different from a hard reset than the reset that we did earlier, we're actually going to unplug it from power. Now, that's going to be the black cord that goes into the wall. You've got a lot of those, you say. Well, ours will typically have a little red flag at the end, and that'll identify it from the rest of your cords. Unplug it, count to about 10, and go ahead and plug it back in. Now the front of your receiver lights will go off. They'll come back on, they'll go off and come on a few times. Perfectly normal. Go ahead and let that start up. Your lights will come back on steady, and hopefully you'll have a picture. Great, now with a little luck, we've got your TV up and running. But don't worry if it's not. You can check us out at mydish.com. Under troubleshooting, you'll find the same steps that we went through here if you'd like to touch base on them again. And if you'd like a little bit more help, check out our chat team. They'd love to help you, and of course they don't ever close. While you're there, go ahead and check out that pay-per-view section, or that movie you've been looking at for a while. Or add a premium channel and enjoy a movie with your family. As always, we'd like to thank you for choosing Dish, and we hope you found this video helpful.